everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the newly rebooted official Dragon's Den DQ podcast, Slime Time.
Hey everyone, this is actually the third incarnation of Dragon's Den's Slime Time. Everything is a reboot nowadays, so we thought, why not this?
Sounds good. Hey, I'm your host, Matt Mason, aka Plattym3.
And I'm your host, Liam Kirsting, aka Liamland. We are coming to you live at the time this was recorded.
Yeah, I'm live down in Florida. Liam's live up in New York.
Yeah.
So let's review a little bit what we want to get out of this podcast in this incarnation.
Sure, yeah. Well, I want to say right off the bat that we're not here to compete with any other Dragon Quest podcast. I know there's a few active DQ podcasts right now. I truly believe that all Dragon Quest podcasts are worth listening to because they all share a common topic. So if you're a fan of Puff Puff Hour and DQ FM or any other DQ podcast, past, present, or future, that's totally great. We're not here to compete. All Dragon Quest podcasts are worth listening to. So we're just here to add to the growing dialogue and promoting Dragon Quest in the West and to engage in dialogue with our fellow fans.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely. I was just actually listening to DQ FM's DQ2 podcast earlier today. Came out a few days ago, so was a pretty good one. Sorry if they feel I'm razzing them a little bit with details on Twitter. Love you guys. Keep it up, Austin. Keep it up, Jay. With our podcast, we're going to try to be interviewing and engaging other Dragon Quest fans in dialogue. Each episode will be a forum on the Dragon's Den, and also we're going to try to talk with a DQ fan every time. We're going to try to focus on a particular game in the series each time, and also look to tap into what the fan vibe was like of that game during that time. During the release, during the re-release, during the re-re-release. I mean, some of these have been out 3-4 times. Try to just provide a glimpse of what the history of the whole series or the history of a single game in the series each time.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the intended audience for this podcast is really anyone who loves or is interested in learning more about Dragon Quest. We're hoping to create that conversation that speaks for both old school and new fans simultaneously. Or
yes,
simultaneously, as you wrote earlier, Matt.
Yes, feel the pun.
So if we're interviewing someone and they want to talk about the original Dragon Warrior for NES, or the release of Dragon Warrior 3 on Game Boy Color, or DQ8 for 3DS, or any of the spin-off games.
Hey, like Joker 3 or Slime Mori, the original.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be awesome, actually. Even if we had someone to talk about Dragon Quest Swords, or their experience with any of the unreleased games that never made it out of Japan, it would be interesting discussion. All those Japanese DQ releases where you say it's not coming.
Well, it's not.
Keep the faith, Platty.
Speaking of it's not coming, we've even got someone in mind, maybe one or two people, for a Dragon Quest X discussion. We've got some regulars here at the Dragon's Den that play, and they've had a team together for, gosh, maybe 7 years now, I think it's been.
Yeah, Cranberry and the team.
Mm-hmm.
Erdrick the Hero is one of them. A couple other folks from the Den. The Dragon Quest X is an infamous game, I guess, in the fan base. It's a game we all want to try, even if we don't like MMOs. But there's so many restrictions and locks and little bells and whistles to get around it to play.
Yeah, not to mention even the language barrier.
Oh yeah, that too. But
yeah,
I've actually sat in on some of the streams on Twitch, and it was pretty awesome. And just watching Cranberry and the team interact, because you can chat and Romaji, so they can basically just type out in English and have the conversations that way. It's just the menu items and like the dialogue and everything that would require a hodgepodge of Google Translate.
That's pretty cool. All right, well, since this is just an inaugural episode, we don't have a guest on tonight. We thought we'd just interview each other, introduce the format for future interviews, and let all the fans out there, all three of them, get to know us, your two main hosts.
Yeah, so first off, Platty, I know you're a math teacher down in Florida, and you are married and have 2 kids. You're a regular contributor to RP Gamer, and you've been a guest on all their podcasts as well.
Yep. love the RPG Backtrack, and I've been on at least one of the other episodes of their different ones. It's always a fun time. Now, your turn, Liam. I know you're married. You got married in Japan, and you lived
Yeah.
there for a year with your son when he was born. And you work in advertising up in New York City, right?
Yeah, that's right. I currently work in an ad agency on 52nd Street, a few blocks from Nintendo New York in Rockefeller Center. And Platty, you were actually on vacation in New York City one time. You came up and you met us in person up there for one of our semi-regular Dragon Quest 9 multiplayer meetups, which was a lot of fun.
That was really fun. I gotta give a shout out to my wife for letting me do the nerd thing on one of our 7 nights up there in New York City that summer, and I
Right.
thought it was great. We both showed up in the matching Dragon Quest 8 shirts.
Yeah,
Totally
that was
unplanned.
totally unplanned. Yeah, we even got photos, so it was a good time. All right, let's get down to some of the Q&A. Do you want to go first? You want to interview me?
Sure, I'll go through and ask you all your questions, and then we can turn around and
Yeah,
do
sure.
it. All right, let's do this then. All right, so Liam, there, how did you get into Dragon Quest?
Well, I was at a friend's birthday party in 1989, and my friend was like showing the game to us. He had Dragon Warrior 1, the original, and I had just an immediate connection to it with the medieval style. So I saved up and bought my own copy.
Oh, you actually bought the original NES
Yeah,
copy.
I had no foreshadowing that this Nintendo Power giveaway was going to actually be a thing. So
So,
I was one of the uh, early people who actually accidentally bought a copy.
well, you know what? It's a good thing not a lot of people did what you did, or I wouldn't have gotten my free copy. But I'll talk about that later. So, all the games in the series, I'm sure you've played a bunch of them, obviously. What's your favorite one?
In the classic series, it's definitely Dragon Quest IV, but it's kind of hard to deny how amazing and advanced Dragon Quest XI is, because I mean, above all other games in the series, it really breaks new grounds in terms of like the gameplay, the stories, the character design, the world exploration. I mean, it adds so much to the series while still maintaining that franchise nostalgia. But when I go to play a classic series game, it's typically either Dragon Quest 4, 3, or maybe 5.
I can definitely see that. Definitely. So, I know you've not played everything in the entire series. Are
Yeah.
there any games you haven't gotten around to playing to, but really want to give a try to?
Um, the Monster series definitely. I haven't. I've played the first Dragon Quest Monsters, and then I got a little discouraged at how hard it was to recruit more than one of the same monster for different breeding combos.
Hmm.
But I've restarted this one probably 4 or 5 times because unlike you, I am a fan of Dragon Quest 6, and so I love to play like an origin story of Terry and everything. So I've definitely restarted this one a few times,
Hmm.
and then looked at guides for how to do like various monster breeds, and then it's some kind of crazy like 0% rate if you've already recruited the monster.
Oh yeah, it
So
definitely goes down to half, and I don't even know if it goes down to a quarter if you've got two or what, but
yeah,
it
so
may even be less than a half.
right. I definitely want to try that. I'd love to complete it someday and then see how that series progresses. I know you love the Joker series. I
Hmm.
have all of those as well, and I do want to play through those at some point.
All right, yeah, they're good, and I'll tell you what, I think the favorite game I played last year was the translated Terry's Wonderland, the 3DS one. That that was awesome. That really is. That big shout out to the guys who translated that one, the team that did that, because they did an awesome job. And it's a shame we never gonna get that over here, or we haven't yet. But then again, it's been quite a few years. But all right,
Yeah,
so
we just need some incredibly rich fan to just like fund everything. Just here you go,
we just
Square Enix. There
fans
you
out
go.
there right now go buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah,
You know, if you win, just set aside
yeah,
1, 2, 3%. I'm sure we could. It doesn't take much to translate these, right?
right.
A million,
Yeah.
$1 million should cover it. A real development studio for $1 million, it's all there. All I got to do is put the text in. So, all right. Other than the the monsters ones, which you really haven't gotten to yet. Are there any games in the series that really haven't resonated with you? Anything that you've played and like, meh?
um, I get maybe not games so much as like moments in games.
Mm-hmm.
I love every Dragon Quest I play. I pretty much love it. I just have some sort of connection to the medieval style of it. Um, and so I mean, but there are certain moments like of course I always go back to Dragon Quest II's unblockable death spells and Roan. Um,
Ugh.
yeah, and you and I both absolutely loathe the Zoma fight from Dragon Quest Heroes. Uh,
Oh God,
it's just
forget
yeah,
that, man.
it's a massive difficulty spike towards the end of the game when they really just only have three bonus bosses left, and the first one you fight would be like Zoma, and he's just ridiculously difficult.
Yeah.
And I played it a couple of times. I looked at YouTube videos, and they make it seem so easy, and I was just like, screw this. I don't
Oh,
have the
definitely.
patience. I'm an older fan now. I don't have the patience for this. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess the way that it works with like Dragon Quest IX Legacy bosses, uh,
Hmm.
there's a slow difficulty ramp up where it's a challenge, but it's still fun. I mean, even Nocturnus 99 is still fun because it's difficult, but with the right amount of like skill and luck, it's doable. Zoma and DQH is just like a complete shit show.
Yeah. What are the ones? Because we haven't beaten the same two. You haven't beaten three of the ones in DQH. Who haven't you beaten?
Uh, Zoma, Nocturnus, and Atlas, basically. Yeah,
All right, I
those three.
think I managed to take out Atlas because I'm pretty sure I'm down to two. But I mean, I've got 120 hours on that game. Honestly, about a third of that is probably my son. But yeah, I because once I reached level 99 on everything, I tried those bosses and yeah, you're right. It's a shit show. That'd be the best way to describe
Yeah, and some people have the patience and skill for that. I am not
it.
one of
Hmm.
those people, but like, yeah, there's definitely some YouTube videos where it's like, you just do this, and then they take him down. But like, yeah, he always just seems to be like, not so fast
Yeah, I
to
think
me.
one of the big reasons I love the Dragon Quest series is it's mainly a turn-based game. I don't have to rely on my crappy hand-eye coordination and everything. And while
Mhm.
I love the Heroes games, they're not the ones I'm best at. So, all right, well, moving right along here. What's your favorite? What's your least favorite character in the series?
Favorite is tough. Some of the MCs have really great design,
Hmm.
but the thing about like MCs like an Erdrick or like a Solo or Sophia, you have to supply your imagination basically supplies their personality because they don't show up in any of the party chat.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess for someone more defined, I guess probably Princess Elena. Um, I love her like fighting spirit, and she's fast and tough, and there's this whole backstory where like Christo or Kirill is in love with her, but she's too focused on like adventure to even notice. And I just thought that
Hmm.
was kind of funny and realistic in a lot of ways, and for unrequited love and everything.
Oh, poor
Um,
Christo, man.
yeah. Least favorite, and I think I'd join you in this as Maribel. Um, I know she's more tolerable in the remake, but she is just a total brat in the original Dragon Warrior 7 on PlayStation. I just can't. Like realistically, I think the hero and Kiefer probably would have ditched her in the first cave. She was that annoying.
Oh, most definitely. I mean it's funny as a trope in games, but I could you just imagine that in real life, having that kind of attitude following you around? Like,
Yeah, like the bratty little sister kind of
yep,
like.
you know what? Head back home. We got this. Thanks.
Yeah.
I think we can outrun you for a little bit, and
Right.
you
We'll
know
see you
what?
when you're a little bit older.
Yep, yep. So I think when you ask me that question, our answers might be quite similar
Right.
there. So you're podcasting now. We're podcasting here.
Yep. Yep.
We met on the Dragon's Den,
Yep.
and we've met in real life. We've met
Hmm.
through the Dragon's Den though, and our fandom. What are other things that you've done online? What are some other things you've done online for, with, about Dragon's Quest? What's your Dragon Quest history online?
Sure. Well, I guess I was part of the old Enix forums back in the late '90s, early 2000s when this is like before the merger and everything.
Hmm.
Um, and when I guess when the Game Boy Color games were coming out, and that's around the time when I first discovered like the emulation and everything, and that the fact that Dragon Quest 5 and 6 were translated by fans, and I was learning how to like patch ROMs, it was kind of the rebirth of my fandom. I'd kind of fallen out after Dragon Quest 5 never got released in the for the Super Nintendo. Um, but I was such a huge fan of the series, I kind of came back to it, and then found out the fan base was still going strong. And so I used to chat on those forums a little bit until the merger happened and they got shut down. Um, I've co-hosted a couple of contests with you through Dragon's Den, including the
Hmm.
annual DQ pumpkin carving. And we used to have this recurring brag your DQ swag photo contest, which Westy helped us to promote. Um, Recently, I was a guest host on the Puff Puff Hour to the podcast, Puff Puff Hour podcast, to talk about Dragon Quest IX multiplayer, which is something I also help organize for semi-regular meetups at Nintendo New York. And
Hmm.
and I run a mail and tag DQ9 service to help people who are having trouble getting access to the DLC locked content in DQ9 since the servers came down.
Cool. Were you ever on SlimeNights.com back when that was a thing?
Um, I was for a little bit, but then there was like part of me. I was just, I was so bummed out basically that the old NX forums were taken down. So when Slime Lights came along, I was like, it's not the same. But I did keep in touch with like a lot of the folks that I used to talk to like back in the day on the old NX forums, and
Hmm.
a handful that migrated over to Slime Nights. But I guess
I,
those things, when it comes to forums like that, there's kind of a shelf life for official forums like that because, but the Slime Nights went out. That went dark a couple of years after 8's release for PS2.
yeah, they promoted. Was it the original Joker or the second Joker? And then that was it.
Yeah.
They did
So
two, and that was boom gone.
right. So I figure, I mean, the what I like about Dragon's Den is that that's fan run and that's not going anywhere. That's going to stick around for a while.
Yes.
This just turned into a commercial for Dragon's
Hey, as
Den.
well it should. Woodus Brian, if you don't know him out there, he has been running the Dragon's Den. I was talking to him the other. He was down here in Florida. We went out for a drink a few weeks ago, and he was reminiscing with me. And he said that he's a couple months away from having run the Dragon's Den for half his life. So, and
Wow.
he's like us. He's in his 40s, so it's been going strong for a long time. And I met his sons, and he was like, "Oh, I hope one of these guys takes it over one day." But
The
he's not
family
looking to
business.
retire anytime soon, luckily. But
Oh man, that's hilarious.
yeah, you know what? Yeah, he mentioned that. He was like, it's been almost half my life I've been doing this.
Nice.
But all right, so I mentioned earlier you got married in Japan. You lived over there for a while,
Yeah.
um, and obviously the fandom over there is way different than the fandom over here. I mean, here we got us on a Skype call here from Florida to New York. That's the only way we got a couple fans able to talk about it over there. You could probably throw a rock out the window and hit a Dragon Quest fan,
Yeah.
uh, or at least something Dragon Quest. What are some of the cool things that you've seen or done on your trips to Japan?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of great Dragon Quest events and like
Mhm.
themed venues in Japan. So you've got like the Artnia, which is like one half store, one half cafe, and like so you walk in and just like the whole left side of the wall is like Dragon Quest plushies and merch and everything. And then they've got the cafe on the right side, and uh, while you're sitting waiting for your slime pancakes, you could be up and like just perusing the merch the whole like that. It's just such a fantastic experience. Luida's bar as well, the Dragon Quest bar. I've met up with a couple of fans there in the past. I've taken my wife on a date there, which is fantastic. Um, my wife and I also went to go to Universal Studios in Osaka to the Dragon Quest The Real, which was kind of a precursor to their VR. So they had a lot of they had some animatronics. Like they had a giant dragon lord towards the end of it that was just like a giant kind of mechanical puppet that looked like Dragon Lord, and you're slashing essentially like a Wii remote at it, with goggles on to make it look like a sword. Um, and yeah, it was just a lot of fun. It was that kind of combination, but then eventually it just went full on VR, and you've got Dragon Quest VR at a place in Shinjuku, which actually Pendy is over there right now, and he said it moved. So we'll get some information on that. Hopefully, we'll get him on the podcast soon.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know he's over there to see the Dragon Quest Your Story movie, so we really want to get his feedback on that.
Yeah, definitely been following all his pictures on the Dragon Questers Facebook group and just being
Yeah,
friends with him on Facebook and seeing all the cool stuff he's been doing this week.
yeah, definitely. He's on Twitter too, right?
You know what? I don't know if I follow him on Twitter.
All right, I think he is.
My
But I'll
gosh,
double check that.
I better get
Yeah,
going with my Twitter
yeah,
there.
we didn't do our Twitter homework before this.
No, we did not. Sorry.
Right. But yeah, so other pop-up events and stuff like that. The DQ VR was a ton of fun. It was completely exhausting, but really fun. Like you're decked out in all this VR gear, just like a vest. They give you this big, bulky kind of plastic shield thing, and a sword hilt, and then put goggles and an earpiece over you, and you walk into this giant room, and then there's just monsters coming at you from various directions. So you have to like be turning around and like looking basically 360. I mean, my wife wasn't there for that one. She sat out for that one, and but they gave me, since I was the only one there online, they gave me like a staff priest. So they had someone from they just had a random staff employee come to be my priest, and was basically just healing me the whole time. But I think I ended up dying during the Zoma fight at the end of VR, but it was still just a ton of fun, and I was completely exhausted during like after the first battle, and that was just slimes. So I'm slashing away, and then my heart's pounding. I'm like, holy crap, I'm out of shape. I'm a dad. Just yeah, it was just crazy, but it was so much fun, and I feel like I'd be in really good shape if I could do that regularly.
So sounds like we got a theme going here. Fighting Zoma sucks.
Yes, yeah, that's right. That's the second Zoma fight.
In pretty much any incarnation here.
Yeah.
Anything else?
And then I guess anything with DQ themed food is always fun, but like the Dragon Quest Museum in 2016 was probably my favorite out of all of it. It was just like it was such a great homage to everything from the main series 1 through 10 at the time, just through like artwork, miniatures, and like replica armor and everything. And you couldn't take a photo of everything, but I snuck a couple where you weren't supposed to.
Nice. Breaking the rules. So speaking of like the miniatures and replicas, do you have any of that stuff, or what's some cool pieces of memorabilia you got? Because I mean, you've been there. You've had a chance not to pay $700 through Amazon Japan or whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of hard to pin down. Like favorite merch. I guess I kind of have a top three, but it's like a three-way tie. I was I was buying merch from someone on Dragon's Den probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and he actually sold me a 1987 Mirror of Ra that was given out to like the NX employees when Dragon Quest II came out in Japan.
Is it an actual mirror? Can you
Yeah, it's a
look at it?
mirror. Yeah, yeah. I took a photo of it for Westy. There's like on his page, you'll see like him staring into the mirror, but that's an actual mirror.
Oh, that's cool.
From Yeah, and it's got like the date on it. It's got some runes. I think I took a picture of it recently, a couple months ago, and put it on. And a bunch of the fans like chimed in to help translate some of it. I forget what it said, but yeah.
Interesting.
Um,
That's definitely unique.
yeah, something about drinking your Ovaltine. Um, but yeah, so and then I like that. That's such an amazing like little piece of history because they have other Mirror of Ra's that are available in Japan, but this one came out like specifically for the first game that featured it. Um, and I guess on the night I met my brothers-in-law.
Hmm.
One of them asked me like what DQ merch I was having trouble finding, and I told him the 25th anniversary DQ Saki, and so he just like went on his phone and found it on like a random Japanese auction site in like 2 minutes, and just got it for me. And he kept saying like he's like, oh, we got to drink the sake, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah, let's do that. And then I just ended up smuggling it home.
I was gonna say,
So
and then you did it and never mentioned it again.
yeah, yeah. Because
Awesome.
yeah, I mean, you could find the empty bottle that somebody drank online. You can find it for like $200, and that's
Hmm.
without the sake in it. And
Wow.
uh, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how well this will keep after all this time, but we'll see. Maybe someday. Um,
The sake aged like wine.
yeah, I don't know. Um, I got to meet Yuji Horii in the summer of 2018 at Anime Expo in LA. So I just took a spontaneous trip out there to meet him. Um, I had to sell a bunch of like merch and stuff just to get the plane tickets, and my wife was like super supportive of it. She knew this would mean like the world to me. It's kind of a rite of passage, so like she told me to go for it, and I was like, all right, I'm already on the plane. So I flew out to LA for like less than 24 hours just to meet him, and then I just like after meeting him, I just bounced and went back to New York to help my wife with our 1 year old.
Nothing like a
So
cross country trip.
yeah, right.
But no,
Um,
that seemed like it was worth it. I remember when you went out there. That was pretty cool.
yeah, I got to meet Soma QZ, who is you probably have seen his name around before. He's
Hmm.
a Twitch streamer, but he is also pretty instrumental in just bending the ear of the Dragon Quest X developers a couple of years ago, and actually like getting them into a dialogue about like, well, what if we did release it to the U.S. And he had this whole thing going where people submit support tickets, and they just like uh, submit support tickets that say, hey, we want Dragon Quest X in the West, and we basically just bombarded them. It was a big fan campaign, and it got their attention. It didn't, unfortunately, amount to anything, but it got their attention. So
Did he send out the postcards? I want
I
to say
think that might have been
some.
Ignatia. I think that was Ignatia 7.
All right, somebody sent me postcards years ago, and I wrote my name on it. I wrote my wife's name on it. Wrote a friend's name and address on it, and mailed them in. But someone like I remember being on the den, and someone brought it up, and actually had pre-printed postcards with the "Hey, please bring Dragon Quest over to the West." And
Right, right.
I
Yeah,
remember
I
I
don't
was like,
know.
I'll take some. Sure, send me a few.
All right. Well, if that was anybody here, I think it was Ignatia, but if it was anybody else, feel free to chime in on the new Twitter feed we got.
Yeah, we're going to have a couple different ways, and we'll tell you at the end of the episode how to get in touch with us. One way, we're going to definitely have something on the Dragon's Den forum. And if you are looking to talk Dragon Quest and want something more than a little Discord discussion that goes, you get lost 10 minutes later, you come back, 100 messages, or if you're not into Twitter and not into that instant gratification, but want to post a message and come back, like we used to do in 2010, um, definitely go over and visit the Dragon's Den. We'll tell you more about that later, though.
Sure.
Um, so seems like a lot of fun stuff that you have done. Got a lot of good merchandise. We'll kind of wrap it up here.
Sure.
Your interview, do something about the music, because I know the big three with Dragon Quest is obviously the artwork, the games themselves, and the music are a big deal. So, do you have like three favorite Dragon Quest music tracks or top three that you really enjoy?
Yeah. I've loved even the 8-bit stuff. Like you could hear the melody and you could like, wow, that's a really cool tune. And then it just once you hear it an orchestral version of it, it's just fantastic. It translates really well to a full orchestra. Um, so definitely the Unknown Castle, which is the Zenithian castle theme from Dragon Quest IV.
Mhm.
Um, Heavenly Flight, which is featured in both Dragon Quest 3 and 8, which is like the Phoenix Ramia theme, the when when you're flying over the land. Um, and just the castle theme from Dragon Quest 2 is really, really pretty amazing. If I could do
Excellent.
it again, if I could get married again, we'd get a quartet and have them play all of that stuff.
Ah,
We did talk about it, but we are like, yeah, at the end of the day, we're like, yeah, that's way too
you
expensive.
didn't go there.
we didn't
Now,
we didn't do a full quartet.
my wife and I went to a wedding, I want to say 4 weeks before we got married. One of her friends got married, and we went to a wedding, and the music was all. We were like, this is weird. Like they picked, I mean, it's probably music. Obviously, it was music they liked, but I think we were in our 30s, early 30s, late 20s, and so were the people that got married. But everybody else that was there was really old, and all the music they picked. First of all, the older people were not dancing to what they picked. We were like, "What the hell is this music?" And all I remember is it was about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from where we lived. So the entire drive home, my wife and I planned out our whole thing, and it reminded me today. I walked into an area, walked into a room. We were having a meeting at work, and I don't know why it was playing, but the Superman theme was playing. And I walked in and I was like, hey, this is just like my wedding because we planned it all out. I walked into the Superman theme. We had the ring bearers came down with music from, gosh, what the Tom Cruise spy movies. Um, God, I can't even think of what those are now.
Oh, Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible. They came in with the
Yeah,
Mission Impossible. They had the glasses on. We had the one kid handcuffed to a suitcase with the rings in it. We walked out to Akuna Matata. We
nice.
had we had planned so many fun things, and honestly, we probably wouldn't have done that had we not been to a really shitty musical wedding a month before. So luckily, our DJ was very much in tune with
And
that,
now,
and
now that's on the podcast forever, and your friends
yeah,
are listening to that.
you know what? They got divorced, so oh well. That you know what? You have crappy music. That's what happens. All right. Well,
Okay,
speaking
moving
of
on.
getting married, yeah, speaking of getting married, this is going to be a fun little thing. When we were discussing this podcast for the past month or two, uh, this came about through some probably very inappropriate discussions, and it got boiled down to something a little bit funnier.
Yeah, I think
The
it's based on like that old Howard Stern game, but yeah.
So we're going to play a little game here. It's pretty quick, but our game is called Marry, Thwack, Puff Puff. I'm going to give you three choices, Liam. I'm going to give you three
Okay.
Dragon Quest people, and you got to decide who to marry,
Mhm.
who to thwack,
Yep.
and if you're new to Dragon Quest, that means you're going to kill him,
Okay.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
or attempt to. It doesn't
Right.
always
Yeah,
work,
that's
but
true. Let's like let's consider it thwacked, like a
yeah,
successful thwack.
a successful thwack
Yeah.
and Puff Puff. And if you don't know what Puff Puff is,
Google it.
uh, open up a Google incognito window, you know, Dragon Quest Puff Puff. Hey, it's Dragon Quest. It's family friendly. It's not going to be too bad, but it's pretty funny. Let's just say it's Dragon Quest equivalent of having a little bit of fun with the ladies. So,
Um,
all right.
or guys, I mean, in Dragon
Or
Quest Heroes. If you want that
remembering
trophy, if you want that trophy for the
Huffington
puff puff,
Host.
you have to you
That's
have to puff all the dudes as well. But
you do.
also an homage to Dragon Quest 3,
Right,
where
yeah.
it was just the first one I remember where they had like that, you know, lights go off and then they come back on and it's like a dude and he's like, "Hello, what'd you think?" You know. uh,
Yes. The young lady lures you up just to have her father give you a
yeah, puff massage.
sing
That's
time.
yeah. There's so many great. 11 has so many great moments like that.
Oh.
Uh,
And of course, I think one of the best parts of 11 is when they do that exact thing. They totally go back. And it's in the desert town, just like it was in Dragon Quest 3, and the
yeah,
exact same scene plays out 25 years later. But
yeah.
all right, so Liam, here you go. You're
Wait a
three
minute.
people.
Hold on, I
Oh,
got a question.
yes.
Are we considering this? Am I getting the puff or am I giving it?
Oh gosh, I could really play a difference in the way you think about it. You're gonna get it because I picked three
Okay.
female characters for you.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I
We,
just we didn't really talk about that. I just wanted to make sure.
we may not be as generous to future people that we have on here. Depends
we
how much
just
we like them,
yeah.
you know.
Everyone who just signed up immediately signed off.
I'll give you a little bit of a layup here. All right, so
Okay.
Mary Whack Puff Puff.
Yeah.
Your people are Dragon Quest II, the Princess of Moonbrook.
Okay.
Dragon Quest III,
In
the
dog
female.
form or
Oh, you know what? We'll go with
let's
the
let's go
you
with
have the
princess
Mirror of
form,
Rot
please.
home. You
Yeah.
have the Mirror of Rot home. So she is a full human princess.
Okay,
So
good.
human princess of Moonbrook, female Dragon Quest III hero, and the
Okay.
female Dragon Quest IV hero.
Oh,
What do
okay.
you do?
Well, I just did my most recent playthrough of DQ4 with Sophia, the female hero.
Oh,
So yeah,
okay.
I would she'd be a Mary.
Okay.
Yeah, she'd be Mary, definitely. Um, I'd probably thwack Princess of Moonbrook because she had the most powerful spells in Dragon Warrior 2, but they'd often fail. And so and she yeah wasn't who was the one, wasn't it like I think it was Kanik actually who he was the only one with the revive spell in the original. Is that the one?
And yet he's the one who
And
died all the
he
time.
would always die first. So, um,
Oh, the
but yeah,
irony.
I think they might have given Moonbrook the revive spell in like the remake, but I don't remember exactly.
That's
But I
familiar for the
yeah, I
maybe
just
not the
remember.
Game Boy one, but the mobile from the Dragon Quest or from the Super Nintendo version. I don't know, but
Gotcha. Yeah,
it seemed familiar.
I remember having like Moonbrook learning Explodat. I forget what it's called in the remake, but it's like the most powerful explosion spell in Dragon Warrior 2,
Is
and I
that
was like,
Kaboomly?
oh man, yeah, probably Kaboom or Kaboomal, and I was
Hmm.
like, oh man, it's on now, and then it just failed half the time I tried to use it. Um, but yeah, so I'd probably thwack, yeah, I'd thwack Moonbrook, and then Puff Puff, the female DQ3 here.
All right.
Should I
So
say the name, or is that a
I,
spoiler at this point?
I was gonna say 25 years later. I think we're pretty good if you say the name.
Yeah, I guess because like the character Erdrick is in Smash now, so like it's pretty people know who that character is, and they know.
I was gonna say you might not have even played a Dragon Quest game, and you kind of may know the history of that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yep,
So
that's that's it. All right.
wow, thwacking Moonbrook because sometimes her spells fail.
I mean,
Wow, man.
if you're not
You got some
consistent,
high standards there.
if you're not consistent, then get me someone who is.
Oh, okay, okay.
All right. So
I
moving
give you
on.
that.
That's not too cold, is
No,
it?
no.
All right. So Matt, how did you get into Dragon Quest?
We kind of touched on it earlier, but I got it from Nintendo Power. Um, Back in the day, not a lot of people were like you. Not a lot of people ran out to buy Dragon Warrior 1 for the
Well, if I
Nintendo.
knew I was gonna get it for free.
Yeah.
I might have held out.
So apparently, what is it? Nintendo ended up with a whole bunch of copies of that game and didn't know what to do with it. So uh, I
Why can't
saw it.
that happen today?
Physical. It's because of digital. That's why. Blame
Oh,
digital.
they have too many Nintendo Switches. We got to get rid of these.
That's the truth. But yeah, back in the day, back in the 80s, probably 89, it might have been the year that you got it. But I remember I didn't have Nintendo Power, but friends did, and somebody was like, "Hey, look, you can get a free game if you get Nintendo Power." And I'm like, "Well, I wanted Nintendo Power anyway." So I asked my parents, and they're like, "Nope, too bad." And knowing that my grandparents, who lived just a couple doors down, were always on the lookout and always asking me, like, "Hey, what do you want for Christmas?"
All right.
Um, I honestly think it might have been summer or early fall, and I mentioned it to my grandmother, like, "Hey, I'd really like this." Never really thought about it again. Whatever. It didn't come in the mail, so I was like, oh well. And then Christmas Day comes, and I open a box over my grandparents' house, and there's like 5 copies of Nintendo Power that she's been having sent to her house, and right on top is Dragon Warrior 1. And I'm like,
Nice.
oh my gosh. I remember very quickly, because it was only 2 doors down, running home, and man, I played the hell out of that game
Huh.
for the next year. It's funny to think now that you can go through that game in like 10 hours, but thinking back at that game, I remember I was in middle school, and back then those games all came with maps and little adventurers guides, and there was a piece of like a card that came in there, a laminated card with
Yeah.
all the spells on it, all the weapons. And I had friends who would have that at school, and we'd be looking over it, talking about it, and like, oh, are we gonna get this weapon, or are we gonna get that weapon? And you know what? There was like 7 weapons, if that. Thinking about games nowadays, and like, oh, there's 100 different recipes in here to make all these different things. Like, I sat at school and we like agonized over how are we going to get 300 gold to get the iron armor or something. But
Yeah,
that
now all
I,
those guides are just online.
yep. Even the guidebooks, they're gone.
Right.
R.I.P. Man, I
Ah.
have so many of them.
So what's your favorite game in the series?
I think we pretty much agree on this one. I'd say if we're going classic for the NES, definitely 4. Um, that was the last game that we had for many, many years, and I remember getting that in high school, and even all the way through college. That 6, 7 years, that was the only Dragon Quest game I had for a while, until I got into emulation right after college and learned that, oh my gosh, Dragon Quest 5 and 6 are out there, and people have
Yeah.
translated it, and I could do this. But
Yeah.
definitely Dragon Quest 4, if we're talking the classic. 5 is amazing.
Yeah.
The story,
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
overarching 3 generation story, and everything that goes on there. And it
Hmm.
had monster recruiting, which is,
Right.
I love monster recruiting. I love the monster games and everything.
And it
But
makes sense too. Like five is it feels the plot feels like a movie. It's like a massive revenge story that
the
starts
plot
from
feels like a movie.
childhood.
Only they made a movie of it.
Yeah, if
You know,
only.
if only.
But yeah, it makes sense
You're
that the
right.
first the first major Dragon Quest like movie release would be about five.
Yeah. I mean, I think the fans in general, while there may be debate about which one's the best, if you just said based on story,
Based on
what
story,
not
right, right. Probably
what's the
five.
best, you're gonna get half the fans or more saying 5. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely.
But I will say Dragon Quest 11 was made to be like the culmination or the best of everything they've done so far.
Hmm.
And now that I've had about a year to think about it, let it sink in.
Yeah.
I know I was saying this at the time, but I was kind of like hesitantly saying it. But I mean, now that there's a little almost nostalgia factor since it's already coming out with the definitive edition a year
Hmm.
later,
Yeah.
definitely Dragon Quest 11. I mean, if
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean,
if you could
it's
play one
still
Dragon Quest game, that'd be it.
definitely that's a really good starter game if you haven't played a DQ game before. I know there's like a bunch of different opinions going around of like play them in this order or that order or start at one and go all the way through. It's It's a long haul to do it that way. Um, there's a lot of
If you're a modern gamer, it's really tough to say, "Hey, start with one and see if you like it."
yeah,
That's not a modern game.
right. Yeah, even the mobile versions, they're good remakes, but um, to have to go through like 1 through even 7, and 7 is massively long before you get to 8, which has really more of a modern feel to it.
Hmm.
That's asking a lot. I would say try 11 if you really love it, and you probably really will. Then go back and ask for recommendations, and
There's
for what the
9 more
best ones
games
are.
that are pretty much like it that you might like too.
Yeah, the battles are going to be different, but I'd say if you really loved 11, you want something that's very similar to it. 8 is a good one. If you want
Definitely.
really great story, go with 5, and if you want really great characters, go with 4.
Oh,
But
definitely.
yeah.
I don't disagree.
Um, any games that you haven't gotten around to playing in the series, but you want to?
So, have you asked me this in May? I would say yes, Dragon Quest Builders.
Okay.
Um, 3 years ago that came out. I played it through chapter 1 and 2. It just wasn't really resonating with me, and I don't really play a lot on my PS4 with 2 young kids. It was just not something that I could sit and play for long periods of time.
Mm.
Um, with the announcement of Dragon Quest Builders 2 and that getting close, I actually plowed on my Vita through Dragon Quest Builders 1 in about 12 days.
Uh-huh.
There were some night, and we were on vacation, and I would just spend some nights like 4 or 5 hours. Once the kids went to bed, I'd stay up to like 2 a.m.
Ah,
playing.
nice.
And honestly, that's it. I've played every game in English. I've played Mori Mori, the first one.
Yeah.
I just last year I sat down over the spring, over the course of the spring, and I played Dragon Quest. What is it? The remake, Terry's Wonderland of the first Monsters game. Played that for about 50 hours, and turned right around and played Joker 3 for another 50 hours. Um, just I played them all. I played a few in Japanese. I remember when the DS games were coming out, I had a emulation thing for my DS system. That game was so easily, or that system was so easily hacked that the day that Dragon Quest IV dropped in Japan, someone found out that there was the English script built in, and I got that, and I was playing that mostly in English. The party chat wasn't translated,
uh,
but all the menus and all the regular chat was. I played right through in English the day it was released for the DS in Japan. So I mean, I've played them all. There hasn't been a single English release now that I've beat Builders 1 that I have not played through to completion.
nice. I love we joke around a lot with builders too, or builders in general, TOO
Hmm.
too. But because like our design skills are mutually just not up to par with what what we see on like the Facebook groups, the Dragon Quest Builders
Oh,
Facebook group. They
gosh, they're amazing.
they're amazing. Yeah, if you are not already joined up to the Builders Facebook group, absolutely hop on and take a look at some of the designs there because they're absolutely fantastic. They put my dirt castle, to shame.
Dirt castle. I got dirt rectangles. That's about it.
But yeah, Dragon Quest Builders and Builders 2 are both very fun. I wish I had more time to play Builders 2, but I'm still very early on in it with what
Hmm.
little time I have to play at home now with a 2-year-old running around and a 4 hours of commuting a day to
Oh, I
work,
get it.
to and from work. But yep. So I mean, mostly what I've been playing is um, 4 and 5 on the DS
Hmm.
at the moment. So what um, what is your favorite or least favorite character in the series?
Least favorite character. I'm gonna completely agree with you, and we're gonna pronounce some of these things a little differently. We were talking before the show that some of us have never discussed Dragon Quest out loud speaking before. So you were calling her what? Maribel?
Maribel.
Maribel. And see, I've always called her Maribel. Maribel. That's
Maribel.
what I said. Who knows? Does she have? Is it spoken in? It should be in
Oh, and Heroes 2?
Heroes 2.
Probably. Yeah, but then, I don't like Sorrow. Sorrow's name in Heroes 1 is sometimes like Sorrow and Pissarro.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on which voice actor's voicing it, I don't even think they talked about it at a time.
Sometimes you take a silent P, sometimes you don't,
Yeah.
But
talking about the letter?
definitely
right.
the letter. We're keeping it clean here. Well,
Nice.
not really. We've already had Mary Thwack Puff Puff.
Yeah.
Maribel, definitely my least favorite character.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite threads on the Dragon's Den in the past few years was Maribel sucks. And every now and then, shout out to our member Eel over there for starting the whole people
sounds
suck
like an Eel topic.
things. But oh yeah, Maribel, not my favorite. Not a fan of those kind of personalities in games.
Devil's Advocate. She is better in the remake.
You're right. Yeah,
she's
like toned down.
They toned down the brattiness, definitely.
Although the second I could ditch her and never take her back, I did. I never used her. I know so many people will take her back when you can because she's got so many more skills than the party member that joins after her. That it's like, my gosh, do you want to take back someone at a higher level with more job classes mastered? I was like, no. I played through that game 3 times completely, and twice I never touched her the second I had the choice to. The first time I really didn't know better. I was like, whatever. She's 5 levels higher and has mastered 3 more jobs, so yes, bring her back to my party. On other playthroughs, there was like, nope, stay at home. Just go back.
What about favorite?
Favorite character? I'll have to say almost the entire cast of Dragon Quest IV. It's really hard to pick a difference between Christo or Kirill as he's now known.
Yep.
Taloon is hilarious. And Dragon Quest VIII, Yankus. If I had to pick somebody other than a Dragon Quest IV character, it would definitely be Yangus from Dragon Quest VIII. So there's a bunch of good ones there.
Cool.
So
what have you done online for, with, or about Dragon Quest?
So I've been a member of the Dragon's Den for 12, 13 years. Took a couple year break when life was rough, but I've been there. I've got 22,000 posts on the Dragon's Den. Probably 20,000 of them are complete bullshit, so sorry, you don't have to read everything I've ever read. But after the Slime Knights website shut down, after promoting Joker and Dragon Quest VIII, after that shut down, one of the coolest things that I remember about that website is they had contests. And I loved participating in the contests that Slime Knights have. Actually, I think the Dragon Quest VIII shirt that I wore when we met, I won one by winning contests and trading in points that I'd earned on Slime Knights. And I used to do so much of those. I had the Dragon Quest, the Slime controller for the PS2 that I won by winning enough contests or placing in enough contests. You earned points on the old Slime Knights website.
Awesome.
And I traded it in
around.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I didn't participate in the forums there very much because I was really committed to the Dragon's Den at the time. And it was like, okay, I'd post a few times, but all the contests I love. So when that shut down, I brought the idea of contests over to the Dragon's Den. And
Wu just said, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, do it. You really haven't sent out prizes. You get a little badge for it if you win something. But yeah, I started that many years ago. I know King Zenith and Democrobot took that over when I disappeared. Throughout the years I've come back. We don't really run a lot anymore. I'll be honest, about 2 years ago, we would be doing contests. We now call them quests. We'd be running them, and if 5 people participated, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I remember that. But I think one of the ones that got people pretty amped up was the brag your DQ swag. And the
Yeah,
whole idea of it was to like look, if we can get Square Enix attention at like look at all the stuff, the swag that people are importing from Japan because they can't get it here.
yeah,
And like if and we got enough of their attention that like one year I think it was the might have been the Builders release. They actually had DQ merch at New York Comic Con, which was like unheard of. Like
wow,
they had only Final Fantasy merch there before then. And like now, I mean, it was only two large slime plushies, but it was still something.
two more than zero, right?
Yeah, two is more than zero. Thank you. um,
So that's pretty
so
cool.
yeah. So what are your top three favorite Dragon Quest music tracks?
Oh, geez, Dragon Quest music. It's good.
uh,
I like it. I don't believe I've ever listened to a single track outside of the games.
you're breaking my
And
heart.
even in the games, I probably listen to it about 10% of the time.
Okay.
I am I'm such a distracted gamer. I'll watch Netflix while I'm playing, or if I nowadays if I'm playing, it's mainly in the middle of the night when my wife and kids are asleep. So I know I could put on headphones, but I'm really lazy and
Mm,
I don't always
gotcha.
have them nearby, and I don't move. But I'll be honest, I couldn't tell you a single track name. I love the themes especially. I
Yeah.
love all the sound effects. I think for more than 10 years now, um, the Dragon Quest level up sound has been my email sound on my phone.
Yeah.
I've had so many of those throughout the years. I remember, and this goes all the way back to when the original Joker came out, or not even Joker, Fortune Street, when
Hmm.
that came out for the Wii. I remember one time I didn't have my phone turned down and I was teaching and it went off and one of the kids was like, "Hey, I have this game Fortune Street. That's a sound from Fortune Street." I was like, "Yes. Yes, it is." It's also from like
Instant A.
20 other games before that, but the
He was
fact that
failing in
you
math
recognized
before
it.
that.
So, I I, I couldn't tell you a single name of a track. I do enjoy it. I enjoy it in the games. I think it's fine. I love the MIDI. I love the orchestral. Don't really have a preference there.
All right.
Probably because I just it doesn't it's not something I'll listen to on its own. But it's good. It's good.
All right. All right. Friendship over. That's okay.
Hey,
um.
Yangus would say the same thing. Zachary.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Not what I
Zachary.
say. What you
Oh,
say.
I
Be like
accidentally
friendly.
just. I said yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Zachary. Zachary.
Zachary. Hmm.
Um. So what is your favorite Dragon Quest mini game? Like slime race or slime curling or any of the cheesy tracks or
I
casino games.
the casino games. Honestly, I
Yeah.
will spend hours upon hours in the casino. When I was younger, Dragon Quest IV on the NES,
Yeah.
I probably half the times I hit the reset, probably 90% of the times I hit the reset button, because I mean, how many times did you reset that?
Yeah.
But 90% of the resets on my original Nintendo were
Hmm.
because I was playing video poker in Dragon Quest IV, trying to earn tokens and failing. But
Yeah. The
those
RNG
rare
is.
times I would win, I would always do the double or nothing, where it'd give you one card and you could pick
Yep.
five other ones and try to get it. Oh
Yeah.
man,
You have to pick the higher card.
yeah, high low.
Yeah.
It was always higher. It was always higher on that one.
Yeah.
But man, I 10, 20, 30 hours of my life was probably spent because I think I played through that four, five, six times on the
Yeah.
original Nintendo just because of all the years between that and when we got something else. But I would spend hours on the casino, and to this day I do too. The matching game in Dragon Quest VII. Oh my gosh, I would sit with a piece of paper and draw out the grids and just go crazy with that.
Yeah.
Um,
The
and
poker is
nowadays,
tough though.
yeah, the
Poker
rough.
in four. I mean, the RNG is just really unforgiving in that particular game. I remember that. Just you're trying to get the it's usually like some sort of metal armor or something like Metal King shield or helmet or something. And yeah, it's just it's a little unnerving to like spend that much time and like and completely just miss it out.
Yeah. Nowadays, I'll mainly play the roulette. I feel that one's got a little. You can bet a lot of money.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
hard
yeah.
to. It's not an all or nothing. You
Okay.
can put chips all over and sometimes get lucky. Sometimes just keep going. At least you're not all done. It's not always a win or lose everything at once.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
love the casino. Love the casino.
Gotcha. So, any games in the series that didn't really resonate with you?
I think main game definitely Dragon Quest VI. It's something I've beaten 3 times, and it's a Dragon Quest game. I enjoy it, but in terms of the main game series, I think that was kind of the one where it was just they maybe tried to do too much. We're like, hey, let's throw in another world. Hey, let's throw in a dark world, and let's put in job classes. Let's put in monster recruiting, and just so much and the dream world. And now you've got 2 of these characters, and they were oh my gosh, it was and it didn't give a lot of direction. I don't need linearity, but it was a little too open world for me.
Yeah,
So
I that's what I liked about I like the character designs and everything and all the different characters. But yeah, I can completely understand that reaction that as soon as you get the boat.
yeah, not in any way do I say it's a crap game and nobody should play it, but I just think for me that was kind of the lower one. And the Dragon Quest Builders 2 side games, I do enjoy them. I would probably go to any other side series in the Dragon Quest universe before it. I love it, but we were talking about that Dragon Quest Builders group on Facebook, and I look at those things, and yeah, I'm building dirt rectangles. I enjoy the game. I love all the callbacks to Dragon Quest 1 and Dragon Quest 2 in the 2 games, but I teach math, I teach robotics, I teach coding. I'm really that stereotypical left brain kind of person. I don't have the artistic bone in my body. So while I enjoy the game for what it is, it's not something that I'm spending a lot of extra time making stuff on.
Gotcha. All right. So what is your favorite Dragon Quest pun?
What's funny is I think I've talked about this on 2 other podcasts on RP Gamers because we brought it up before, but this was one that I think Brian Woodis had to point out to me years later, or somebody did, and we didn't get it. But in Dragon Quest IX, there's the town called Zere, and it's Zere, and nothing really. You solve a problem there, you move on. But later on in the game, you come across a guy who had lived in Zere. Something happened. He was kicked out of the town, or he left because some woman he loved was gone, or I can't remember the exact plot.
Yeah,
but
something like that.
Yeah, he had such good memories of this town that he went to high on a mountain as a hermit, and he carved the entire town out of rock. And there's the exact copy of that town in the game, but just built out of rock. It's all gray. Everything's made out of rock. He's even like chiseled people, I think, in the different areas. And when you go to cast the zoom spell to go back to it, it's called Zere Rock or Xerox.
Yeah.
And when I say it out loud right now, you hear it, Xerox.
Right.
Xerox is a copy. It's the company that makes copy machines, Xerox. But never having said that out loud, it was years later until I was like, oh my God, you've got a copy of the town. And the town's called Zere, and the copy's called Xerox.
Right.
So that hit years later.
Yeah, that's like a joke grenade.
It is. That one took a while to explode, but I stepped on that one years later, and it was still active.
Yeah.
More recently, there's a great one in Dragon Quest Builders 2, and it's not a plot spoiler or anything, but on the second island you go to, the second you get there, there's a golem, and his name is Goldilocks. And throughout it's Builders 2, and you're building stuff, and it's a mining one, and the miners are always, oh man, after we're done every day in the mine. We need to relax. We need a bar. You gotta, come on, man. You need to build us a bar. So throughout the story, you're building a bunch of different bars, and it just drops. One little NPC mentions it at the end that, hey, you know what? You've completed this quest. You built this town up, and now we got Goldie Rocks and the 3 bars. And I'm like, second I saw that, I was like, boom, that was great. I mean, the whole scenario. It's hard to imagine that like something like that isn't planned so far ahead, and I wonder how much puns are there in Japanese compared to English.
That's a good question, because there were a lot of, like, Dragon Quest IX had a lot of Simpsons, and well, not a lot, but like it had like Patty and Selma,
Mm-hmm.
and those characters are not named that in the Japanese version,
No,
like by a long shot.
but like, does the term bar in Japanese, is it anywhere close to the word bear? Could that pun have worked in the Japanese? I don't know, but
I could find that out. I know bear is Kuma, but I don't know bar. Not yet.
so yeah, the Goldie Rocks 3 bars, pretty good.
It's just bar, actually. Luigi's bar.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll ask Tomoko about it.
Those are my top 2 puns. Those are great. Love the series for the puns.
Cool. Yeah. All right, it's your turn now.
Oh boy.
Marry Thwack Puff Puff. All right, let's go with Stella, Deborah, and Maribel.
Whew. Well, I can thwack right off the bat. I can take care of this right now. Maribel, bye-bye. Thwack. With the rage inside of me for her behavior.
I'm surprised you didn't pick her for me. Because that was an obvious choice for you.
It was an obvious choice, but you gave me a little bit more of a layup here, so.
Yeah.
Gosh, the other 2. That's an interesting one. I don't know if I could deal with Deborah for a lifetime. Then again, Stella, I mean, she doesn't annoy me as much as the rest of probably the DQ fandom. So I'll have to marry her. I don't know how that would really work out.
You're going to marry Stella?
Yeah, I'll marry Stella. I mean, Deborah's an obvious Puff Puff choice.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, she's the hottie of the DQ5 bride choices.
Right. Is she? She's a DS exclusive, or is she in the mobile? I don't remember.
She's in the mobile, because the mobile.
She is in the mobile.
The mobile's based on the DS.
Yeah, but she's not in the PS2 version.
Correct. She was something new for the re-release, or the remake of the remake.
Right.
Or was it a demake, because the DS was
the PS2 came out before the DS version?
Yes, it did.
Okay. Yeah, I own the PS2 version. I just haven't. I don't have a PS2 boot disc or any way to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe someday. But all right. Well, that's all the questions I have. What else we got on the coming down the pipeline?
All right. So, what you kind of touched on it earlier. What kind of Dragon Quest games have you been playing lately?
Well, I don't have a lot. I have a 2-hour commute to work and then another 2-hour commute back. So when I'm sitting on the train, if I'm not sleeping, I'm playing Dragon Quest IV on my DS or on my mobile device. Like, I'm playing them simultaneously. I was in Chapter 6 on the DS, and I'm in Chapter 2 currently on my phone.
Okay.
And it's just like, it depends. Like, if I'm on the subway, it's easier to grab my phone than my DS. If I'm on the train, I'll have the DS. So I just recently beat the bonus dungeon for 4. 5 is the one I want to tackle next, only because I've only beaten the DS version with Bianca as the bride. So
okay.
I
Good
have
choice.
to. Yeah.
The right choice.
I'm a Nira fan. I still have to go through. Right now, my current playthrough of 5 is for Nira, and then I'll play it again with Deborah. That'll be an interesting one, because I think she's the bride that I want the least. Deborah.
The party chat. It is worth it for the party chat alone.
Okay.
She is by far the best.
I think on Puff Puff Hour they talk about like how she's like just really redeeming like over time. There's like a lot of character development there. So it's just the initial like hardcore aggressiveness. I was like, whoa, hold on.
She goes from Maribel to Bianca over the course. Maybe not quite to Bianca, but she doesn't stay. She doesn't stay the Maribel character for very long.
Okay. So yeah, so that's what I'm playing right now. I have Dragon Quest Builders 2 at home, but I don't get a lot of time to play at home because as soon as I get home, I'm pretty much just putting my son in the tub and then putting him to bed. I get basically like an hour to take care of like other admin stuff, like looking for apartments and stuff like that. But,
all right.
Yeah. How about you? What are you playing?
Beat Builders 1 in June, and didn't really think. I was like, okay, I'm burnt out of Builders. I'm not going to play Builders 2 upon release. Well, I always say that with Dragon Quest games. It never happens. So I'm about 55, 60 hours into Dragon Quest Builders 2, and I still haven't beat the third island. I'm not really doing a lot of extra stuff. This is a long, long game. Still having fun.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, for about the hour before we started this tonight, I sat my son. I was gone a little bit longer today than usual at work, and he was like dying to play Dragon Quest Builders 2. He really wanted to see me play it. There was some dragon that I tried to beat with him the other day on the Moonbrook Island and totally got killed by it. So
man. Yeah, dragons are tough in this game.
They are. Yeah, they're in the Builders. Gosh, that first one.
Yeah.
That was a big accomplishment to beat that dragon.
Yeah. I remember the first time I did it, I think I like dug under him and then like went one block up and just like cheaped it and just like stabbed him in the stomach.
Like, not a bad strategy at all.
Yeah.
I don't know if I never even thought to do that in the second one. I think I did the first one too.
I think I tried it once and it worked, and then I tried it again and like it totally didn't. He just spun his tail around and went down
and
like,
dug down.
And dug down on top of me, and I was just done.
So
dragons are tough.
Managed to
games.
Yeah, I think I leveled up a couple, got a new weapon, and took it on. My son was watching tonight, so did that. And other than that, I'm really enjoying the game. 55, 60 hours into it, I think, at this point.
Nice. Did you build the toilet yet?
Oh, yeah. Tons of toilets.
I saw that on the Builders. Somebody posted on the Builders Facebook group. It was like a screenshot of everybody clapping. Like once the toilet's built, a line forms and like the townspeople, one of them actually goes in and uses the toilet, and then everybody comes up and like cheers, and they're cheersing the fact that it was built, but it looks like they're cheersing the fact that the townsperson's taking a dump.
Oh yeah. What's great is because you have to build a toilet at the first island. The whole first island's based on farming. And at one point, the guy keeps coming up to you, and because I think the first food that you have to grow is cabbage. And he's like, you eat a lot of cabbage, and then stuff happens, and you got to go out in the woods and dig yourself a hole. Can you do something better than me going out in the woods to do what I need to do?
Right.
And at that point, then you need to do it, because then you need fertilizer. How do you get fertilizer?
Nice.
Apparently, in this game, from human manure. So it is definitely a requirement everywhere you go that you need to have a toilet. So built plenty of toilets.
In the screenshot, there's like, one of the things that the townspeople are saying, various things like, oh, good job, and one of them is just like solid. In this context, it's just like,
that works great.
It's a pretty solid dump you're taking there.
The little characters have little text box above them sometimes, and they do say some of the funniest damn stuff at just the best times. It is, and
I'm
it's
sure
nice
it was unintended. He'll say the same thing to like you build a bar or a room, and they'll be like, "Oh, solid build," but in this case, it's like it takes on a new meaning.
Got that double meaning.
Yeah.
Definitely got to knock this off. So clear up my whole Switch play. Next month we've got the Dragon Quest 11
Yeah,
coming.
it's such an amazing game. We've been talking about it like crazy, and it's hard to believe too that like so many fans are just holding out for that Switch version and haven't played it yet, and they're gonna
Mhm.
absolutely love it.
Yeah, I was very disappointed. I was one of the ones when we found out we weren't getting the 3DS. I was like, "Screw Square Enix, boo!" Still gonna buy it because of course I want to play it, but
I was not one of those people, but yeah,
I
I was
definitely
like,
had
all
it in my
right,
head. I was gonna
uh,
buy both versions,
yeah,
and I was going to play the 3DS version completely in 2D mode at the same time as playing my PS4 version.
yeah, and I was
I don't
just
know if
like,
that really will happen, but I'm
I want the better graphics.
I I put over 100 hours into it on the PS4, and I'm sure I will again come the
Yeah.
end of September.
Yeah, and there's so many new features for the S version, for the Switch version that are like were not in the PS4 version that I'm like super jealous that because I don't have a Switch,
Yeah,
um, and I want one. So, but yeah,
yeah, he'll get there.
yeah, but like even the horse now, I think you can gain experience points by running over monsters with the horse.
Hmm.
I think that's one of the features that's one of the things where I was playing the demo and I was like, oh man, too bad you don't get experience points for all the monsters you run over because you're gonna run over a lot of monsters.
Oh
And
yes,
it's
that
really
was
satisfying to
because we
mow
go
down a
flying.
whole bunch of creatures with the horse. And at first I was like, oh man, they should even level the horse. You know, he's the one doing the damage. Give him like, I want a level 99 horse.
I mean, you do whistle and call him from all over the place. He always shows up. So it seems to be the same horse.
Yeah,
No, I'm definitely looking forward to. I know there'll probably be. I know there's new story spots that I'll
yep,
probably play in the 3D mode, but my mission is to play that game 99% in 2D mode. I
nice.
want I want to do that completely. I want to have that experience. So I'll experience some of the other stuff, the new stuff in 3D, but I want to do. I don't want to play the same exact game again. I want to spend 90 of my
Yeah,
100 hours in 2D mode. That should be fun and really take me back.
yeah,
And
yeah, definitely.
also, I mean, I guess we didn't get news on this. I thought we would have last week, but they teased it, gosh, like last December that the next Dragon Quest Monsters game is going to star Eric from Dragon Quest 11. Him
Oh
and his
wow.
sister.
Oh yeah, okay. I could see that.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
the only thing we got was I think a picture artwork of him and his sister,
Uh-huh.
and that was it.
That
Like,
was such a that was man, that really tugged at the heartstrings, that whole plot with him and his sister in the game. And we don't want to go into spoilers with it, but there's a lot of moments like that in 11 where it's just like, oh man, that's you, you just wish like it's really sad. Like you're playing through it um and there's a lot of moments like that that just really get you in the feels.
definitely, definitely Sylvando and his relationship with his father,
Yeah, yeah,
good one. Um, and the having Eric in a Monsters game kind of continues the tradition because the original Monsters game had Terry
yep,
from
and
Dragon Quest
his
6.
sister Millie.
Yep, and then the Dragon Quest Monsters game that everybody likes to forget that never came out officially in English, but Dragon Quest Monsters, the third one was called Caravan Hearts,
Hmm.
had a much different breeding and combining thing. You had to collect human characters too. It got a great fan translation back in the day. It was for Game Boy Advance, never came out here, but that starred Kiefer of Dragon Quest VII fame. So
Nice.
going back to what worked before. Now it seems like Eric and his sister will be the heroes of the next one.
Great.
So that seems to be about what's coming up next.
Good. And yeah, we've got speaking of what's coming up next, we've got a couple of folks we're going to be interviewing sometime soon for upcoming podcasts. So um, the format that you've just heard with Matt and I, it'll probably go a little bit. It'll probably be a little bit um, shorter, I would guess, because we just went through and interviewed each other. But Yeah, so we're hoping to do that. We definitely got some ideas coming down the pipeline. We want to be interviewing Woodus from Dragon's Den. Um, we are going to be interviewing someone who's actually seen the Dragon Quest Your Story movie. That's going to be coming up hopefully soon, and get some feedback on that because there's a lot of I don't know, controversy, would you say, over like some spoilers that came out about the ending, and
Mm-hmm.
like the fact that the Japanese audience, who is notoriously forgiving for Dragon Quest, actually just the reviews kind of tanked for it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we want to talk about that in a spoiler free environment, but love to get some kind of feedback on what he saw, and yeah, and get some insight, and hopefully we do see a release. If not like a theatrical one, then something, because ultimately that's coming out. Uh, I mean, that's gonna hit the West at some point as a fan translation if it's not done officially.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it would be amazing to get it like an actual uh, dubbed version of it with like professional voice acting um, in English.
This would be a good time to promote. Last week, I started a change.org petition,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
I put it out there on the Dragon
Well,
Questers.
that's a
Po-
caveat though, because we didn't know about the reviews when we did that. We were just like,
True,
it's
true. There
Dragon
might
Quest,
be a
I want it.
sentence at the beginning of that that's like, by all accounts, the Japanese public love this. Well, not by all accounts,
By
but
very
by
few
like,
accounts.
by 50,
By like
it
18% of accounts.
by more than a few accounts, it was pretty good. I
Yeah.
mean, there's very specific, and like you said, a lot of it is cultural. It's not Toriyama's art.
Yep.
Right
Yeah.
there,
It looks
that's
very
gonna
Western.
slice off 25% of the review score or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
And here
um,
too, I saw a lot of feedback like,
yeah.
I love this in concept, but I just can't get beyond, it's not Toriyama and everything. And I completely understand that.
We'll share that petition out from our Twitter account.
Sure.
We can tweet what I tweeted out last week, and I think I did it again today. And we're closing in on 500 signatures there. You know, Nothing that's going to be groundbreaking and get everybody's attention, but just to show. We keep tweeting at Dragon Quest, the official ones, and just to show that we're out there. We want it. We'd love to see it. I mean, eventually we will see it. We would love to
Yep.
understand it.
Yeah, we'd love to see it legally.
Uh-huh. And our man that went to Japan, he does not speak Japanese, so we'll get a review of what he saw
Yeah.
and understood in context.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But so start our little ending here, and you might have noticed something that has been missing from this podcast. We didn't mention any Patreon or any ways to donate to us. And don't worry, we're not going to mention that now. Um, we're just a couple fans. We're a couple longtime fans that want to speak about the game series we know and love so much. We want to get people on to talk about it. Um, I think we're doing good. We don't need the Patreon funds, but if you're moved to consider donating to something, don't donate to us. Go on over to the Dragon's Den. It's www.woodus.com/den, and Woodus is spelled Woodus. It's spelled like Woodus, but we've had many conversations over the year. It's definitely Woodus. There's a button there. Click on support the site. The owner, Brian, has owned and maintained this site 20 years, half his life, more than 20 years now. I'm sure he would appreciate any donation. I know when I buy games, Dragon Quest games, I always buy from Amazon. We've been on Amazon Prime for years here. He's got an affiliate link to all the Dragon Quest games that are still on Amazon. If you're going to buy through Amazon anyway, why not get him a couple pennies or whatever he gets through his affiliate links? Go ahead, just click on it, buy it. Doesn't cost you a penny. But Amazon gives him a little bit of a kickback. And if you've not ordered Dragon Quest 11, the definitive edition for the Switch yet, feel free to go over there and buy through his affiliate link.
Yeah. So I believe that's all for tonight. If you have any comments or questions for us, you can find us on Twitter at @Plattym3 or @RiamuCelestrian, or hit us up, both of us simultaneously at DQ Slime Time. Consider joining in tons of DQ discussions at the Dragon's Den forums, perhaps one of our few remaining not dead forums on the net. Find it on Dragon's Den's main page at woodus.com/forums.
Excellent. And thank you to everyone that made this possible, like Brian, aka Woodus, for his support of the series for the past 20 years, running the site. And he's going to be hosting this podcast, and he'll be keeping the Dragon's Den's lights on, hopefully, for another 20 plus years.
Yeah. Or maybe, if his sons take over the family business, we'll keep that going for generations.
Hopefully.
So you may have noticed our intro music and our ending, which you'll hear shortly, are obviously some DQ tunes, but perhaps an arrangement you may know or may not know. It comes from courtesy of Descendants of Erdrick, a video game tribute band from Austin, Texas. And if you like what you heard, check them out on their most recent album, Advent, on www.descendantsoferdrick.com or Twitter @D of Erdrick, or go see their band leader, Amanda Lepre, live on tour as a guitarist for Andrew WK.
And one other thing, if you're listening to our podcast, you might have seen our graphics as you download it. You can give a big shout out to Sandra Bullock's husband, Dwayne. May or may not be married. I mean, we're just kind of guessing there. But he's our wonderful graphic artist. He's a Dragon Quest fan. He made our awesome artwork cover for this podcast. And Dwayne was actually on one of the original iterations of the Slime Time podcast. I think he was on both the first two
episodes,
or the only 2 episodes of the first iteration.
Yep.
And we'll have him on pretty soon. I know he was involved with the Dragon Quest V fan translation for the PS2, I believe.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's done a lot of fan art too.
You just called him out on that.
I did. I think his name's like on the credits or something.
All right.
Oops, sorry. Squeenix, don't go after him. But you can check out more of his work at Dwayne Art on Instagram. He's easy to find on Instagram, or his website, dwaynebullock.bigcartel.com.
All right. Yeah, I guess we could thank each other too.
Nope.
All right. Well, I'm going to thank you anyway. Thanks, Platty, for being here and interviewing with me.
No problem. Thank you, Liam, for joining me tonight.
Yeah. So long, folks. This is Slime Time, sliming off.
See you next slime.